Part 63. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 624. 1 month later. If time is a sharp scimitar, then who is the master of the scimitar? AG half knelt on a vast sand dune, golden sand flowing down from between his fingers, like golden gravel. What do you want to say? Garen stood quietly behind him, with his arms crossed and wearing sunglasses that blocked the light. It's just a little emotional. AG shook his head and looked at a small oasis in the middle of the golden desert in the distance, which is Baywang's headquarters base in Africa. This place seems desolate, but as long as they advance a few meters further, a warning signal will be sent from the sand pile on the ground in front to the White Phoenix headquarters, warning them that someone has invaded the area. Hundreds of the most elite masters stationed inside will also come out in full force, and various weapons and mechanisms that are ambushed around will be ejected instantly. The guards here are very tight. Garen whispered. What are you going to do? In less than a minute, the entire base will turn into fully armed hedgehogs. AG showed a mysterious smile. Faced with an immobile object like this, there are so many ways we can completely deal with it. Oh, Garen frowned. Killing them all might have a big impact. He didn't want to confront Bai Huang so early. It doesn't matter. The Baiwang family has a great cause, and they don't just have one or two enemies, AG said with a smile. Garen narrowed his eyes and turned back instantly. Unexpectedly, a tall woman dressed in white appeared behind him. The woman stood quietly behind the two of them, wearing a white slim-fitting long trousers, with wavy black hair flowing down her shoulders, but she wore a white mask on her face, covering half of her face below the nose. AG, are you really going to do something about the original color? The woman's voice was very ordinary, just like a salesperson selling goods in a store, without any characteristics. But neither Garen nor AG dared to take it lightly. Nay Sira, how long have we not seen you? AG stood up. 100 years, or 200 years. I remember that I saw you at the city councilor's banquet. That was a long time ago. The woman interrupted him. If it weren't for what you taught me in the first place, I would really want to tear you apart. You are still so rude. AG showed a kind smile. Galen on the side suddenly had a headache. AG was pretty good in every aspect, and he was considered a relatively good collaborator. When he said he wanted to do something, he immediately dealt with various things with him, and then came directly here to prepare for action. But his complicated personal emotional relationships are the most speechless. The relationship between men and women is messy, the emotional life is all kinds of complicated, and now there is another person with congenital deficiencies in sexual ability, so he can act in various emotional soap operas. He didn't want to bother with AG's personal life. Start early. I still have things to return to America, he urged directly. Who is he? The woman glanced at Garen, her eyes instantly focused on his gloved arms. Didn't anyone teach you to be polite when meeting strangers? Garen flexed his fists and narrowed his eyes. Polite? How dare you speak to me like that in a lecturing tone? The woman's eyes flashed angrily. The one who is with AG is probably a scum too. Uncultured thing. Boom. Before he finished speaking, a huge and fierce aura burst out from Garen's body, pressing down on the woman like real pressure. It seemed like a wave of air, but the surrounding sand showed no sign of being blown at all. Bang. Only the woman stepped back 3 steps in a row, her face turned red, and then she stabilized her legs. AG. I'm going to kill him, the woman screamed immediately, as if she had been greatly humiliated. Her hair was dancing like a snake. Garen sneered and stamped his right leg on the ground. With a bang, a large number of sand particles exploded towards the woman like bullets. It was like a storm of bullets formed in an instant, overwhelming and unstoppable. It was like a cloud of yellow mist suddenly bursting out from under Garen's feet, covering the woman. The woman screamed and rushed forward. With a twist of her waist like a snake, she penetrated the sand curtain and sprinted towards Garen. Enough. AG's voice vibrated instantly, like a solid glass wall blocking the open space between the two. This feeling of blocking seemed to be a sensory illusion, causing both people to stop their movements unconsciously. Nay Sira, don't be impulsive. He is just my ally, AG said warmly to the woman. It seems that you have a special physique. Garen narrowed his eyes and stared at the woman, with a hint of sarcasm at the corner of his mouth. No wonder you are so confident. Do you have an energy-absorbing physique? I only need one hand to kill you. As soon as the words came out, the woman's expression suddenly changed slightly. Her physique is indeed her biggest reliance, and this is her biggest guarantee in facing all kinds of extraordinary powers, but now she was revealed by the man in front of her. Her energy-absorbing physique coupled with her extremely powerful close combat skills and firearms usage skills make her fearless in the face of countless supernatural beings. Coupled with her strong identity and background, Nasira felt that the so-called powerful wizards and witches she met were just paper tigers with exaggerated momentum, vulnerable to a single touch with a finger. But this time, this man. For the first time she kept silent verbally and never spoke again. The three of them regained their composure. The commotion here was so serious, but Bai Huang didn't seem to notice it at all. There are still patrols and patrols on duty, and vehicles come in and out of the base from time to time, traveling along the only road. There is at least one satellite monitoring the place at all times, but no one noticed the three people staying for a long time. AG turned around and looked at Bai Huang occupying the entire oasis base. Their real headquarters is actually underground, and its volume is much larger than this base on the surface. Then what are you going to do? Garen asked in a low voice, no longer paying attention to the crazy woman. Underground, all it takes is a little bit of manipulation. AG smiled mysteriously. He spread his hands, and there was a cloud of golden sand on his palms. The wind seemed to be getting stronger, blowing in waves, causing the hems of the three people's clothes to rise and fall continuously. Garen shook his windbreaker, put his hands into his pockets, and quietly felt all the subtle changes around him. He didn't use the potential he absorbed from the lucky stone clock at all. He was just waiting to get a new power system from AG, which might be useful. Now he is still thinking about the secret method he got from Lei Bai, the secret method to absorb potential points. After coming back to his senses, AG in front seemed to be waiting for something quietly. After a long time, he suddenly moved. The palm holding the sand turned slightly, and the sand in the palm began to tilt and slide down, forming a golden sand line falling straight down. What is very strange is that this line of sand seems to never end, and it keeps pouring and sliding down. A high pile has been piled up on the ground below, but there is still a handful of sand in AG's hand. See, this is the power of the earth, AG laughed. Suddenly, the sand string in his hand suddenly bulged into a ball, as if a lead ball was wrapped in it, and fell to the ground hard, then hit the ground heavily. Bang! The ground shook violently. Woo! 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 Suddenly, piercing alarms sounded from Bai Wang's base in the distance, one after another. The people inside looked puzzled and began to run around vigilantly. Soon, as the alarm continued to sound, they also began to receive notifications. Suddenly, their expressions changed and they all ran towards the base. AG still smiled, and the sand string in his hand once again flowed out a clear ball-like object, which hit the sand pile below hard. Bang! The ground shook violently again, as if something was shattering and collapsing, and there was a dull rumbling sound under the three people's feet. It only takes a small amount of force to leverage the incomparable power. AG looked at Garen and the woman and whispered. Bang 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 bang. Garen smiled and clapped. Wonderful power chain leveraging. It turns out that you have been constantly calculating nodes for such a long time to use them to chain leveraging. Of course. This is also an application of our power. AG smiled and nodded. Humph! The woman in white snorted coldly, not feeling surprised at all. Let's go. AG took back his hand and finally the sand in his palm was completely poured out. The three of them didn't even look at White Phoenix's base. Garen didn't know how the other two judged the situation, but he could already smell a faint smell of blood from the ground beneath his feet. His five senses were far more powerful than ordinary people, and he could clearly feel that every time a ball of sand fell from AG's hand, a large area of the underground White Phoenix base would collapse. This is an extremely delicate mysterious force. It is like playing dominoes, one after another. Each force is amplified countless times and directly acts on key points of the huge underground base. Garen knew that AG was showing him how powerful he was. In the eyes of others, this ancient powerhouse is an immortal old monster. Its power can be applied in almost all different fields. He's just that kind of living legend. The three of them turned around, walked to a jeep parked not far behind, and got in and sat down. The strange thing is that the jeep was not afraid of getting stuck in the sand at all. It turned a corner and quickly left in the distance. The wheel marks were soon buried by the wind and sand. The White Phoenix base behind him suddenly roared. The entire base of the ground collapsed violently, sinking deeply into the ground. A huge black hole appeared at the original location of the base, and a large amount of yellow sand flowed into it, gradually submerging the houses, buildings, vehicles, and people in it. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 625. After returning from the White Phoenix base and separated from AG, Garen went directly back to the camp where the Nighthawk mercenary group was located, a private wilderness estate. It is dozens of kilometers away from the city. Nighthawk surveillance equipment is installed all around, and people are on duty 24 hours a day to ensure absolute safety. In a spacious room, Garen swept everything out. The entire room was empty, with nothing else except the floor and walls. The length and width reach more than 10 meters, giving people an unusually spacious feeling. At night, there were faint sounds of mercenaries bragging and playing cards outside, and there were also sounds of people sleeping and snoring. There was still a car engine running vaguely. In addition to the big tasks, the Nighthawk mercenary group also usually took on some small tasks, such as bodyguard escorts, accompanying negotiations, etc. These tasks are safe and simple. Generally, when others see their mercenary group, when people show up and see that sign, they won't turn their backs and take action. Even though the current situation in South Africa is complicated, some small country governments are rising and falling, the struggle for power is turbulent, and warlords, large and small, are densely packed. But after seeing the logo of the Nighthawk mercenary group, he still wouldn't choose to fall out directly. The reputation of Africa's #1 mercenary is still very strong. This reputation is based on thousands or even tens of thousands of killings, not just empty words. As soon as Garen was dispatched, he killed the main leaders of the Black Knife, then chased Lay-by thousands of miles away, captured Cohen, and destroyed White Phoenix's peacekeeping reinforcements. A series of achievements caused a sensation in the entire African mercenary world. Behind his back, some people already called him the King of Nighthawks, because not long after White Phoenix fell into his hands, the troops there had not yet mobilized to react. There was an earthquake in the headquarters, and the entire underground headquarters collapsed, causing heavy casualties. Some people speculate that this is not a coincidence, but probably man-made. But no one believed it. The final result was that Bai Huang had no time to deal with Galen's matter. There was a problem at the branch base and heavy losses. How to explain it to the people at the original color headquarters was the key. A week after returning, Galen's life resumed its rhythm. He got up every morning to do morning exercises, read a book at noon, listened to music, contacted his parents and friends, and went out for a stroll in the afternoon, buying souvenirs and tasting delicious food as an ordinary tourist. At night, I devoted myself to studying the secret method that I had just obtained. As for the lucky stone clock, after Garen absorbed the mysterious power, he threw it all to the Nighthawks and handed it over to the long-term auction house to wait for auction. Not only that, Galen also sent Jay to receive the property left to him by the Men in Black. Although the entire Men in Black organization was completely collapsed and destroyed by Nighthawk, the most important properties and channels were encrypted and stored in international banks in code words, and people needed to be sent to take them out separately. These all take time. Garen is still waiting for the various cultural relics and antiques collected by the Men in Black organization over the years. With such an organization collecting this information for many years, perhaps he can find out the true formation process and principle of potential cultural relics. When Bai Huang finds out that the problem is caused by AG, he will probably be wary. But, AG's so-called small lesson is a bit too much. Do you want to force me into his camp? Garen's hands were beating rhythmically, and his fingers were clasped in front of him, as if he was holding a heart in his hands that was constantly pulsing. His breathing was sometimes rapid, sometimes slow, sometimes long, sometimes extremely short. As his breathing changed, the beating of his heart in his chest was faintly opposite to the beating in his hands. It stopped beating here and beat there, and stopped beating here and there. Just enough to form a continuous thump. As the beating continued, the cool breath in Garen's body began to rotate slowly, like thin cold snakes, constantly swimming around the internal organs, as if swimming in the empty space of the abdominal cavity. This is the potential value he absorbed through secret methods, rather than filtering it with his own abilities. It is the most primitive potential breath. In this way, he wants to appreciate the difference between before and after filtration. These breaths were only a small part of the lucky stone clock. A very small amount was inhaled into his body using a secret method as an experiment. The rest was directly absorbed by the supernatural power and turned into potential points for storage. Even so, it was still the result of Garen's efforts to suppress it. At the moment of absorption, the superpower came into effect instantly. He wanted to instinctively forcibly absorb the potential breath, but Garen tried hard to control it. Be a little turbid. This kind of breath once again, he felt the potential absorbed by the secret method slowly strengthening his internal organs. Garen closed his eyes slightly to feel the subtle changes. In the attribute column in the field of vision, the physical attribute began to flicker slowly and vaguely. There was obviously a change, but the change was very small, and even the blur was extremely weak. With the strengthening of the secret method, there are too many impurities, the absorption is too wasteful, and the efficiency of removing impurities with the body's instinct is too low. A lot of energy is eliminated along with the impurities, which is inefficient compared to supernatural filtration. Garen estimated that if the superpower could produce 10 potential points, it would only require 12 units of raw potential. Then, in order to achieve the same effect through secret absorption, at least 100 units of raw potential would be needed. This gap is huge. Moreover, the essence of the superpower can be added to the skills, but the precise impact on the brain's learning and understanding mechanism is not comparable to the rough secret method enhancement. Secret strengthening can only enhance physical fitness, but can do nothing else. The failed product is too shoddy for this level of exploration. Opening his eyes with some disappointment, Garen exhaled. There was an unpleasant smell in his breath, which was the smell of impurities being discharged from the body. My power may be able to reach the level of Type 6 in a short burst of power, but it only lasts for a moment. After that, I will be seriously injured, and I need to consume potential points to recover, which is far from the peak state during the totem world. I still need a lot of potential points to recover. Physical fitness is what matters. He glanced at a thin book on the ground beside him. That was a secret record given to him by AG before he left. It was a record of common sense about vampires and some extraordinary powers. It contains extremely detailed descriptions of the high-level vampires of the Death Apostle level, including detailed descriptions of their power, level, and methods. Opening the page of the book, Garen glanced around, and the new lines of text above came into clear view. This book can be entered through AG's remote records and its contents can be continuously revised. It can also be used as a secret communication method between two people. At the vampire level, high-level vampires can already pose a threat to you and me, so we need to be vigilant. The level of death apostles is far beyond the power of you and me. Do not touch them easily, they are extremely difficult to kill. Each death apostle has different powerful abilities. They can be reborn in the body of any living creature with their own blood. According to my guess, the person staring at you is probably a dead apostle. AG's text slowly emerged line by line. Garen frowned slightly. How destructive is the power of the dead apostles? He took out a gel pen from his clothes and started writing quickly on the page. What was strange was that as soon as he finished writing these words, AG's notes continued to appear below. They are not pure matter, they have no soul, and we cannot understand this life form, but extremely weird. The powers of the dead apostles are different, but what they have in common is that they all have extremely powerful strength, speed, and physique. The strength and physique you showed earlier has reached the peak of human beings, but compared with them, it is still far behind, AG replied. Can you be more specific? Garen frowned. Based on your previous performance, it will be enhanced dozens of times or even hundreds of times, AG replied. Dead apostles have been hit head-on by experimental laser cannons, but they all came out intact. Their limits are unknown, and no one has ever defeated them in the physical world. No one can kill them in the material world either. Material world? Garen asked. Does it mean there are other worlds that can kill them? He thought of the inner world in the totem world. They are the manipulators of consciousness and the kings of dreams. Their true identities are hidden in the dream world. If you want to kill the dead apostles, you must find their true identities in the dream. Dream? Garen suddenly recalled the strange dream that day. In dreams, they can easily manipulate each other's emotions and feelings, stimulating all kinds of negative emotions in them to achieve their own goals. Sometimes they will also weave perfect dreams to allow the dreamer to satisfy their desires and indulge in them. If you are not consciously aware that you are dreaming, your deepest secrets may be exposed. You have to be careful. AG ended with a series of ellipses, which usually means he has ended the call. Garen closed the page. He began to understand the horror of vampires in this world. They were basically monsters living in dreams. If he couldn't kill them in the real world, it would be the greatest disadvantage to him. He is completely unfamiliar with dreams and has no experience in them. As for whether the resistance in them is related to the strength of the soul, Garen estimates that the correlation is not very big. Just look at that weird dream last time. The other party easily aroused his fear, and that kind of sourceless fear was a reaction he had never experienced before. All his power is rooted in reality, and he has no power to resist dreams. Wizards can resist higher vampires, which means that witches and wizards must have similar coping methods. Garen speculated. It seems that we must learn the power system of wizards and witches as soon as possible. He doesn't want to become a vampire, let alone a cannon fodder vampire. As for the high-level vampires, all the descendants of the high-level vampires can perfectly suppress the opponent's spirit. It's not like he gave himself an extra superior out of thin air. It's better to become a wizard and integrate into it first. The description of a dead apostle who could not be killed gave him a big warning. If he could not find the opponent's true form in the dream, it meant that he had nothing to do with the opponent. This is no longer about destructive power, but simply not a field at all. Tell me about your practice. Garen wrote heavily on the page. You are in crisis. Any time you take the initiative to enter the dreamland, you may be discovered and exploited by the other party. Now is not the time. AG replied. The handwriting written on both of them began to quickly disappear and fade. How long will it take? The Blood Clan is in chaos. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 626. Prine, the largest city in the UK. Among countless vehicles passing by, a group of men wearing black clothes and hoods rushed into a bank headquarters on the street carrying bulging backpacks. "Get down! Get down! Get down!" Bang bang. The sound of gunshots instantly ignited the nerves of everyone around him. Screams rang out immediately, but they were immediately suppressed. Several security guards surrounded him from both sides. Just as they were about to raise the pistols in their hands, they were immediately knocked down by 2 gunshots. On the ground. The scene again elicited tiny screams. There were people inside the bank who were withdrawing money and doing business, as well as a salesperson at the counter. The salesperson quickly and calmly pressed the alarm through the thick bulletproof glass. Woo! A piercing alarm suddenly sounded, and the bank's rolling shutter doors quickly lowered themselves. "Get rid of him." The leader of the Black Hood did not panic at all, and whispered to his companions. One of his companions chuckled, took out something from his waist, and threw it towards the door. The black thing suddenly started rotating at high speed and emitted a faint red light. This red light directly caused the rolling shutter door to stop pulling down and instead retracted upwards. The leader of the Black Hood walked to the counter and came face to face with the teller inside. Bang! His hand smashed the glass in an instant, and the bulletproof glass, which was more than 10 centimeters thick, directly grabbed the head of the teller inside. With a snap, the head exploded into a ball of blood mist under his hand. "Ah!" A female teller next to her screamed loudly, and fear spread instantly at this moment. Not even bulletproof glass could stop that man. A clear smile can be seen on the leader's masked face. "Come on. Come on, hey hey hey, what should you do, catchooties?" The more than 10 meters black mask behind him quickly began to install something inside the bank in an orderly manner. More than 10 minutes later, a group of people rushed out of the bank and into a dead end on the street. They seemed to disappear and never appeared again. Boom! With a deafening explosion, the headquarters of the largest British multi-billion bank in Preen was turned into a sea of flames. The entire bank building began to break from the first floor and fell down with a bang. The bank building, which is tens of meters high, is like a dying giant, falling down with a huge shadow and pressing hard on the blocks below. Boom! Broken glass walls flew everywhere, cement collided with cement, and vehicles were severely crushed. Some people had no time to run out and were buried directly under the building. Some people were scratched a little and crawled away with blood dripping from them. People around them shouted loudly. Shouting, some took out their mobile phones to call the emergency call, some hid behind solid walls, and more people fled frantically. At noon on July 21, 2411, a huge terrorist bombing occurred at the intersection of Lotus Street in Prien, the largest city in the UK. The British 10 billion bank headquarters building was blasted and collapsed, causing dozens of deaths and hundreds of injuries. The specific incident is under investigation. According to insiders, the terrorists all wore black masks and their tactics were sophisticated, very similar to the mastermind of the previous Gatling shooting case and others. The news anchor on TV was reporting on the latest developments in the case. In a dimly lit luxury room of a hotel, a blond man with a naked upper body and a black dragon tattoo on his arm was watching the news quietly. He had blonde hair, shawl and a white bath towel, and his legs were resting on the coffee table in front of the sofa. He was handsome and lazy. "It seems they did a good job." A woman's voice came from the bathroom not far away, soft and magnetic. "It seems so." The blond man nodded. "I think it's time for the other side to take action." "How did you arrange it?" "Hasn't it been decided a long time ago?" The blond man's expression was slightly stagnant. "Even if he is my uncle, if he chooses a side, he will have to pay the price for it." There were bursts of laughter in the bathroom, and the woman seemed very satisfied. "This is just a small prelude," the man whispered. "The battle between the secret party and the Ming party has just begun." Forest of Tranquility. In a mysterious place where the Ming party has never been discovered. This is the most cutting-edge high-tech underground base, with black walls, black floors, and black ceilings. There are hard and smooth stones everywhere, some of which are engraved with bright red silk threads, which are monotonous and repetitive. In a conference room in the center of the base, a man and a woman in suits and leather shoes were sitting on tall black-backed chairs. They were whispering to each other, discussing some topic in a low voice. Some frowned, while others stared. Looking at the person in charge, there were also people holding phones and nodding slightly to answer. Sitting at the middle front of the long table is a white-haired man in a black striped suit. He looks like an artist, with long white hair tied into a ponytail. His hands are intertwined and placed on the table in front of him, with a solemn and indifferent expression. There was endless discussion in the conference room, but he seemed not to hear it at all. A lot of things have happened recently. There have been abnormal fluctuations in the members of the Camarilla in America, and the witches are also frequently contacting each other. I have already taken a certain amount of preventive measures, a gentlewoman with glasses on the right said. The disappearance cases in Asia have not yet been clarified, and they are increasing year by year. We are short of senior personnel. We hope that the headquarters can send special correspondents to support, a middle-aged man with yellow skin said in a low voice. I will send you a written application later. The white-haired man nodded. Don't take too radical measures in the Americas, try to be gentle. The main premise is to protect ordinary people from being disturbed. Clear. NASA needs additional funding. We have made the latest and greatest breakthrough, a fat white man hammered the table and shouted loudly. In which year did you not make any big progress? A voice mocked. This year is special, Fatty argued. Funding. We need funding. As long as we have enough funding, we will be able to implement the Planetary Environment Transformation Plan immediately. By then, the second Earth will be just around the corner. How many years have you been saying this? 10 years? 20 years? Or 100 years? The cold and charming woman sitting directly opposite him said disdainfully. The fat man was furious. Space exploration requires a lot of funds. It is not convenient for us to interfere too much. You can negotiate with representatives of the governments of various countries. The white-haired man shook his head and smiled. Did they cause the bombing in the UK? The white-haired man looked at the taciturn black-haired man at the end of the table. Yes, he is a subordinate of one of the Camarilla Samaroas. It was my fault this time. The black-haired man bowed his head and apologized. Samaro. The white-haired man tapped his fingers lightly on the table. For a moment, the tapping sound seemed to have some kind of magic power, which immediately calmed the entire conference room. Let me handle this matter, the black-haired man whispered. Lord Hongyu is over there. Can I ask him for support if necessary? Yes, if he is willing. The white-haired man nodded. This matter must be suppressed as soon as possible to avoid causing greater panic. Clear. This year's FA selection targets are too high. I'm afraid we may have some difficulties here. A new person began to speak, in order of seating. In the selection and assessment, this year's indicators are carefully calculated. Those who do not meet the standards will be rejected. It just so happens that the number of evolvers of our new human race needs to be strictly controlled. The white-haired man raised his hand to indicate the next one. Supernormal phenomena discovered in some archipelago countries in the Atlantic need to be investigated, and may trigger volcanic eruptions or even large tsunamis. Didn't this last special mission go? Unfortunately, the whereabouts of the special commissioner are still unknown. Let Baddens go, he's just bored. Go and tell him what I want. Application proposals and inquiries were made one after another. The Camarilla bombings were only a small part of it. But no one noticed that the dark-haired man who was responsible for the secret party bombing case suddenly flashed a red light in his lowered eyes. The secret party did not take any big action, it was just a small effort to clean up the small bugs in the British area. As for Lord Hongyu, as the most powerful warrior under the leader of the Ming party, Hongyu, as the second dead disciple, needs to be well treated. How about the other two death apostles joining forces? The corners of the black-haired man's mouth turned up slightly. There are 4 dead apostles in total, and this number will remain the same forever. There are 2 members of the Ming party, 1 member of the secret party, and 1 person is mysterious and difficult to trace and belongs to the neutral camp. Sitting on the plane returning, Galen quietly flipped through the yellow-covered ancient scroll presented by AG in his hand. Sitting in the ordinary cabin, next to me is a bald old man, who is taking off his glasses and wiping them carefully with a glasses cloth. A young couple in front of him is laughing quietly, and the 2 young girls behind him seem to be flying on an international flight for the first time, which is very fresh. Chatting. In such an ordinary and peaceful environment, Garen felt as if the ancient scroll in his hand was like a script in a fantasy movie, without any sense of reality. He seemed to be an ordinary American college student, holding a book full of imaginative stories, movie scripts, and novels, and reading them carefully, as if the world in it had nothing to do with him. Garen turned his head and glanced at the old man next to him, who gave him a friendly smile. He lowered his head and put on his glasses, took out the newspaper on the plane and read to himself. After coming back to his senses, he continued to read the updated content on the ancient scroll. This ancient scroll AG will be replaced with new content every once in a while. My allies tell me that the most mysterious dead apostle may be coming out, which will break the balance between the Ming party and the secret party. But the Ming party has its first death apostle, the Pale Costini, who is known as the most powerful death apostle, and the second death apostle Hong Yu, so the advantage will not be broken immediately. Garen turned to the next page. He took out a gel pen from his pocket and started writing slowly on the page. What are your allies? There was no answer there. Maybe AG didn't open the book page now. Garen didn't care either. Continue reading the new content below. Remembering or realizing that you are dreaming in a dream is the first step you should take. AG seems to be starting to teach them the first point of their power system. The biggest trouble for many people is that they don't realize they are dreaming at all in their dreams. They will be unprepared to be tricked out of their biggest secrets by the environment. For example, on the surface there is a quiet and deserted environment, such as a seemingly safe and airtight room. There are too many such scams. The key to you now is that the dead apostle who marked you is paying attention to you at all times. You must first feel this attention. He will exist in your dreams, and once you enter the dream, the other person will notice it. Therefore, you must take advantage of the time when he is involved in the vampire civil war to find the clue he left and destroy it, so that you can get rid of his surveillance. Garen put down the book and fell into thought. The vampires in this world are completely different from the vampires in the previous world. The vampires here are obviously masters of manipulating consciousness. They wander between reality and dreams. Their lifespan is extremely long and there is almost no end in sight. They are extremely strange and powerful existences. This power may bring her unexpected gains. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 627. A country road in the English countryside. On the sloped lawn by the roadside, a staggering man with a pale face covered his chest and kept moving forward on the grass. Every time he took a step, yellow and black bullets would squeeze out from the fingers of his covered chest. These bullets fell to the ground one after another, falling on the grass, but there was no trace of blood. There is only a red gap between the man's fingers. This gap is like a mouth, and bullets will be spit out every once in a while. Under the scorching sunlight, the man's skin became paler and paler, and you could clearly see a scar like a red moon between his eyebrows. He looked back behind him from time to time, as if he was worried that someone was chasing him. His lips were chapped and crusty like those of a man who hasn't had a drink of water in a long time. Tisk tisk tisk. In an instant, 3 black shadows appeared around him, forming a triangle and surrounding him in the middle. No faces could be seen in the 3 black figures. They seemed to be 3 men wearing black cloaks, and the light was a bit blurry around them. Without any sound or words, 3 black figures appeared and flew towards the man in the middle, like 3 black lightning bolts, but they didn't make the slightest sound. With the same scoff, the body of the man in the middle blurred for a while and disappeared directly. In a flash, he appeared dozens of meters away in the distance. But the 3 black figures just stood in the original position, leaning their bodies, and then fell to the ground with a pop, turning into 3 balls of black ashes, and even their clothes were completely ashes. He glanced at the 3 ashes on the ground. The man coughed several times. Conspired to kill Lord Hongyu. You guys, should all die. If it weren't for the Blood Alliance's blockade, there must be people from the secret party around Lord Pale. We must find a way. The man's figure quickly disappeared into the woods. On the plain, Garen fell into deep thought. His Killing Hand's secret weapon is a top-level secret weapon derived from the Demon King Guyanduo. It has a powerful ability to absorb life. This ability is also very lethal against ordinary vampires, but I don't know if it can be used against Death Apostle level vampires. Effect. At this time, he took a closer look at his current state of secret martial arts. Galen Thomas. Strength 2.8. Agile 2.7. Physical fitness 2.9. Intelligence 2.4. Potential 1558%. Soul limit 30. Soul Seed, Northern Halberdiers Cold Flame True Water Evil Technique. Violin Mastery, 2nd, Mastery Level. 3 levels in total. Hand of Killing, Level 3, Bloody. 4 levels in total, can be derived and evolved to higher levels. Hesaz, one of the 42 Demon Kings of Guyanduo, possesses an indescribable talent for killing. His eyes can annihilate souls with just a touch. It is said that his hands can make everything return to death, whether it is living or non-living things. 15 potential points. If the level of the Killing Hand is forcibly raised. Garen wanted to predict the effect of the Killing Hand after calculation, but unfortunately, this magic skill has the same effect as the secret martial arts of life that he had practiced before. The difference is that he cannot predict the level after the simulation. Garen set his sights on the Killing Hand skill. Suddenly a short piece of information flashed through my mind. To improve the Killing Hand, 10 potential points are needed. If it is impossible to practice another power system in a short period of time, then choosing the evolution of the Killing Hand with unknown progress may be a good direction. Garen finally made up his mind and focused his eyes on the Killing Hand. In an instant, the icon began to blur, followed by violent shaking. The potential points fell rapidly like a waterfall, from 15 points to 5 points left in an instant. The 5 potential points he just received were quickly gone. We can only wait until all the cultural relics and antiques of the Men in Black organization are taken over, and maybe there will be a new addition. The Killing Hand icon quickly began to stabilize. Soon, a new triangular icon with a black light edge regrouped and formed. Hand of Killing, the 4th level, Slaughter, derivative levels are being formed. The crazy killing brought supreme pleasure to Hesaz, and his hands began to be able to take away the enemy's soul through specific acupuncture points. The Killing Hand after the 4th level will be able to accumulate more and greater vitality, and by collecting information about the practitioners themselves, they will form new derivative levels in the future. The Soul Seed has an additional strengthening effect, Ice Essence. The ice damage added to the attack can cause freezing damage to the enemy. It has strong resistance to the ice environment. Garen carefully inspected it for a long time, but did not find any big changes in the Killing Hand on the 4th floor. It was just that the capacity to store vitality had become larger, and then the corresponding part of the secret weapon naturally appeared in his mind. Those were killing. Some unannotated appointment information recorded by Zhishao Maiwu itself. Some of these acupuncture points are known to him, but there are only a few that he has not discovered. All of them can be fatal, but such things are worthless to him. He has countless secret martial arts killing skills, but for the vampire dead disciples, they are so weird. There is really nothing he can do about it. If it is true as AG said, if they cannot find their true bodies and cannot kill them, then it will be really troublesome. A little disappointed, but after all, nothing will develop according to one's own wishes. He quickly ignored it. When the vampire war began, he would always find an opportunity to hunt a vampire above the median level as an experiment for his own killing hand. At this moment, the ancient scroll in his hand suddenly moved slightly. Garen quickly opened the ancient scroll gently and placed it at an angle that would not be seen by outsiders. I saw a clear line of text finally appearing on it, which was written by AG obviously. Hong Yu, the second dead disciple of the Ming party, was seriously injured and escaped and disappeared. Maybe you can start your first step of practice. To become a true witch, dreams are the first step. Next, AG began to educate Garland about the classification of wizards and witches. It is also divided according to the corresponding classification of vampires: Death Apostle level, upper level, middle level, lower level, and apprentice, vampire. They are actually divided into levels according to the level of vampires they can deal with. Until now, there is only one dead apostle level witch among wizards, the Lion Mother. The rest of the regional leaders are only high-ranking witches, and the only known high-ranking wizard is him. Wizards are actually about to be wiped out from history, and have been completely eliminated by the witch community. That's why the vampires are so powerful, because they have 4 death apostle level beings. AG wrote so. Then my strength is only at the upper level, Garen asked. Your situation is very dangerous and strange, but perhaps it is the strange power of your hands that makes the vampires fearful, so even though you have no resistance to conscious dreams, the other party still did not attack you. You are special, however, the power of your hands cannot protect your consciousness, so you are still affected by him in that dream. This shows that you are still in danger, and your strength is far from enough to deal with the Death Apostle's attacks. Unless you are willing to free your hands, that will only be a temporary relief. The Dead Apostles are immortal and you cannot kill them, of course. I don't know exactly what will happen when you face the Death Apostles. Garen frowned. Now, if I put aside my own power, how long will it take me to learn the basics of your power system? I don't know, maybe a month, maybe longer. You just said that the second dead disciple named Hong Yu actually escaped with serious injuries. Didn't you say that they are difficult to kill? The true body can't be found. There are 2 dead apostles who are extremely familiar with him and are besieging him. My information has always been from a sure source, so there is no need to doubt it. Even the first dead apostle Wan didn't know about this news, but it can't be kept secret for long, AG replied. Then which camp did the death apostles who marked me belong to? Garen asked. Unfortunately, I don't know, but I have a guess, a very bold guess. Maybe that death apostle does not belong to any camp at all, and its aura mark is something I have never seen before. You mean, a new death apostle who has been wandering outside the 2 camps? Maybe worse. Then what did you mean by alliance in the first place? Is it your companion? Garen asked again. There was silence for a moment, and then the writing came back. The minimum requirement for becoming a wizard is to have an alliance of your own. It is a companion that can be trusted without any barriers. We generally believe that it is a body consciousness separated from the self, but no one has studied it clearly. You can ask him questions and he will answer all your questions, questions that you know instinctively but cannot discover from the depths of your memory. Garen frowned deeply. He doesn't like giving trust to others without even knowing the details. That alliance sounds like a precursor to schizophrenia. Maybe we can just study the wizard's power system and absorb the part that deals with vampires. He began to have the idea that as long as a large number of cultural relics from the Men in Black were obtained, he might have a large number of new potential points, and then he would have more choices. He had a hunch that the derivative levels after the killing hand might give him unexpected surprises. Although he couldn't figure out the reason behind it. As for AG's evaluation of him, he naturally won't care too much. After all, he still has many things that have not been exposed. Such as courage. United States, Town. Night, 10:12. Ishiro and his sister Alicia were walking out of the small supermarket on the roadside. The car had been filled with gas and the gas card was swiped. Ishiro motioned for her sister to get in the car first, and took out her cell phone to read the text message. The white light from the cell phone shone on her face, making it look a bit dazzlingly white. In a blink of an eye, it has been several years since the sisters came to this small town. She did the math, but she couldn't figure it out for a moment. Such a peaceful life was so comfortable that they almost forgot about their previous days. "Hey sister, there's a person lying here," suddenly my sister Arissa's voice came from the other side of the car. Ishiro straightened his long hair with one hand and strode over. On the other side of his white car, he saw a man lying in tatters and unconscious. There were no wounds or blood on the man's body, and he looked like a homeless man. "Sister, let's take him home, okay?" Alicia seemed to be overflowing with sympathy. She has always been like this, having great love for poor things, whether they are people or animals. "No, that's a man. What if he has bad intentions?" Ishiro decided to take the opportunity to educate his sister. "Sister, are you still afraid of such a thin man?" Alicia asked in confusion. "Didn't you used to fight 5 or 6 men with ease?" Seeing his sister's pleading expression, Ishiro sighed helplessly. Okay, let's wait until he gets back. It's not like we haven't encountered him before." Neither of them noticed that the unconscious man had a red moon-like scar between his eyebrows, which was the Blood Clan symbol of Hongyu subordinates. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 628. Taking care of a strange man who had never met before but was unconscious on the road, let alone 2 young girls. This is undoubtedly a fantasy under any circumstances, but it did happen. Perhaps there was something wrong with Alicia when she first saw that man, and her sympathy was activated like never before. Perhaps it was Ishiro's absolute confidence in her own strength that she didn't care what a thin homeless man might do. She planned to pull him back and throw him some food, and then let him rest for a night under the roof in a windless place. Is the greatest favor. But no matter what, the 2 of them did take this man back. Very weird. When Ishiro came back to her senses, she was sitting in her kitchen, watching the man lying on the table and eating hungrily with her sister. "It looks like he's starving," Alicia whispered to her sister. The 2 sisters sat side by side, both of them speechless. "What's going on?" Ishiro glanced at his sister, completely confused as to how he allowed this dirty homeless man to enter his home and then sit and eat carelessly. "Thank you so much for your hospitality." The tramp bowed his head sincerely to express his thanks, with a smile on his face. Judging from his temperament, he didn't look like a tramp at all, but looked like a polite British gentleman. "My name is Brother Pu. I'm sorry for disturbing your lives." "I'll leave right away." The homeless man said politely that he would leave immediately. "Mr. General, you are not a homeless person, are you?" Arissa was interested in this guy with a good temperament and a good talk. At the age of 16, she was very curious now. She felt that this gentleman must have an unknown story, and her curiosity became even stronger for a while. "Can you tell us about your past? Judging from your speech and behavior, you must have been a well-educated person, right?" Ishiro hesitated to speak. She always felt that there was something abnormal about this person. "I'm sorry, there is something natural about me that attracts you. This is my negligence, and it is also the self-protection ability of our clan." The monk smiled bitterly. "I am in a big trouble now. The way is to leave immediately, otherwise I'm afraid it will cause you a lot of trouble. My sister is very powerful." Arissa has seen the strong side of her sister. Taking a white blade with bare hands is a trivial matter. She also has a lot of experience in dealing with firearms head-on. Ishiro has been trained by the White Phoenix elite. "Master. She is a genius herself, and even an average person with a gun is far from her opponent. Don't say that. There are many people who are better than me. Uncle Thomas's Garen is better than me. She once heard that Garen also practiced fighting every day, and she had seen him sparring. She was definitely not Garen. Garen's opponent, in terms of fighting, Garen's strength reached an extremely professional level. But sister is indeed very powerful. Orisa opened her eyes wide. I think I should go. Brother Pu suddenly stood up, and then the two of them noticed that his accent had a strong British accent. The monk was wearing a tattered grey cloth jacket, jeans, and shoes that were both grey and black, and their original white soles could only be vaguely seen. He quickly walked to the kitchen window, gently lifted a corner of the curtain and looked out. The faint sound of a car engine approaching could be heard outside. Coming. Is someone trying to do something bad to you? Mr. Puxio Ishiro saw that his nervousness was not a fake. Do you need to call the police? The mayor's sergeant is also an acquaintance of ours. It's useless even if the police come. Brother Pu smiled bitterly. It's too late, I'll leave first. Thank you for the dinner. He quickly walked to the window on the other side of the kitchen, opened the window curtains, and with a slight jump, he flew out of the window and disappeared in an instant. The two sisters behind thought they were dazzled. Alicia rubbed her eyes and looked again, but still found no sign of the monk. Don't think about it. Ishalogo had experienced strong winds and waves and quickly calmed down. She thought of the many supernatural phenomena in the rumors, and her heart suddenly became vigilant. She walked over and quickly closed the window and drew the curtains. Go and wash up and go to bed. Just pretend that we have never seen this monk before. Arisha had been on the run with her sister for several years, so she naturally understood the importance. She nodded obediently and didn't ask any more questions. After washing up with their own thoughts, the two sisters quietly went back to their room to fall asleep. But the image of Mr. Pu Monk always lingered in their minds. Raphael, another vampire has come in. In a basement in the town, two young women were standing behind Raphael, watching her quietly reviewing some documents on the table. The candlelight flickered and continuously emitted a layer of pale golden halo. The halo emitted by this layer of aperture just enveloped the three of them, not more, not less, forming a weird spherical space. Which camp is it from? Raphael picked up a document and asked casually. There are people from the Ming Party and the secret party. A black woman with many pigtails replied in a low voice. Are they the ones who are after the blood of the Red Moon? Raphael frowned, suddenly feeling in trouble. Grandma told me that the battle between the two parties has now reached a fever pitch and we cannot get involved rashly. Then we let the vampires run around in the town? This is against our rules, another white woman said, dissatisfied. Her brother was once sucked to death by the vampire conclave, so after she became a witch, she hated the vampire conclave like never before. He is also a consistent supporter of the hawkish attitude towards the Blood Clan secret party. This matter is not a trivial matter. Raphael turned his face sideways, his long golden hair shining brightly in the candlelight. There are Blood Clansmen with the blood of Red Moon. As long as there is still one alive, the Death Apostle Hangyu will not die. Therefore, all the vampires with the blood of the dead apostles must be killed in order to truly and completely erase the existence of Red Moon. At this point, the secret, it is impossible for the party to retreat, especially now that their strength has greatly increased and they have two dead disciples. It is impossible for them to compromise, so once we refuse, it may trigger a war. This is not something that I, the regional leader, can make the decision. Raphael stopped talking. Inform them of our rules. As long as we don't cause serious damage, we can tolerate it. Otherwise, in order to survive, we will go to war. This is our bottom line. Clear. The two women left the circle of light and walked out of the basement with different expressions. Raphael turned around and looked ahead in the darkness. Grandmother. It was pitch black there, and in the black shadow, an old woman sitting in a metal wheelchair slowly emerged. She was sitting in a wheelchair, her face was covered with wrinkles like tree bark, but her eyes were very young, like the eyes of a teenage girl, clear and pure, as blue as the sea. "Your decision is correct," the old woman nodded and said, "we cannot get involved in the blood civil war. This is an abnormal storm, an unprecedented huge storm, which may very well determine the pattern of the world in the future." Before the mother of lions expressed her position, "None of us can take any action that crosses the line." "What revelation does the lion mother have?" Raphael asked. "All the people in charge have not contacted her. The prophecy tells us that we still need to wait," the old woman replied in a low voice. "Don't be impulsive before you break through and reach a high-level witch. Your talent is the most powerful I have ever seen, and you are also the most promising to break through to a high-level witch." Raphael nodded silently. Many of their regional leaders, especially those in the fringe areas, are at the mid-level witch level, which means they are on par with the mid-level vampires. This sounds weak, but it is actually normal and not generally powerful. Generally speaking, most of the vampires who appear in battle are vampires. How much these cannon fodder are produced is of no consequence to the vampires, and the consumption is very small. But real vampires are much rarer. They are powerful and noble, and because of their small number, they all live a leisurely and wealthy life, and will not reveal their identities easily. They are more integrated into human life and enjoy life. They have long lives and strong strength. Many of them are high-ranking officials and have respected status. No one is willing to give up such a comfortable life. This is why the Ming Party vampires far surpass the Camarilla vampires. Who would want to live a peaceful life while running around and killing people? Therefore, 90% of those who are actually active outside are vampires. Occasionally, there will be conflicts between lower-level vampires to control and restrain witches. In such an environment, a mid-level witch is an extremely powerful power. Most witches can generally only reach the level of apprentice, and those with better qualifications can reach lower levels. This level means the ability to deal with lower-level vampires. It already belongs to the level of extraordinary power. There is at most one such witch in 100, and they are considered to be the backbone of the fighting force. And it will take a long time to accumulate strength. And Raphael is only 20 years old now, and has already reached the peak of the rank of middle-ranking witch, and has mastered the powerful witchcraft of the Grander Witch clan, and has been unanimously praised and respected by the witch leaders of other regions. The title of Will of the Sun is not given for free, but obtained through actual test battles. "I understand," Raphael nodded. The old woman nodded with satisfaction, and her figure disappeared into the darkness again. Raphael was left alone to meditate silently. United States, Virginia. 11:22 a.m. the next day. On the road between Baika City and Grando. In a white state and city bus bound for Glendo. The car was full of sleepy people, most of them dozing in the gentle sunshine. Galen sat on his seat and looked at the planes, roads, vehicles, and occasional travelers on motorcycles that kept passing by outside the window. After getting off the plane, he transferred directly. After several transfers, he finally boarded a tourist bus full of people going to Glendo. Although it was a bit slow, it was direct and a lot less worry-free. He still held the ancient scroll in his hand, but his mind was not on it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 629. The handover period for the cultural relics of the Man in Black will take at least more than a month, and it will not go smoothly. After word spread that Lieber had been killed and disappeared, his enemies and alliance allies all took action to rob the power organizations that originally belonged to the Men in Black. Many people transferred to other organizations with their secrets, and a large number of cultural relics were taken away. Nighthawk is short of manpower and can't take care of it at all. Only a small amount could be gathered continuously. Jay took his own small team to travel everywhere. Garen promised him that all the powerful members and other main bodies of the Men in Black organization would be left to him to handle independently. In other words, the entire Black organization man will be established as the Nighthawk division for which he is responsible. In this way, he can't help but not try his best. After all, what is lost now is all his future power. The bald man went back to recuperate from his injuries. His wife was originally on a mission in Europe. When she heard that he was seriously injured, she rushed to Africa overnight to take care of him. Now Galen gave them leave to travel around the world. Now Nighthawk is in charge of the black-haired ponytail woman Sandra. While everything was still being processed here, Garen quickly rushed back to the United States to visit his parents. After that, you might have to invest in training to deal with the Mark of the Dead Apostles. Suddenly, a beeping sound came from the mobile phone. It was the sound of text messages. "Where are you?" "It's a text message from Dad, Emma." "Still on the highway, I don't know where we are, but it will take at least 4 hours," Galen replied. "We prepared beef, chicken fillet, foie gras and caviar soup to celebrate your first trip home from college, your mother's new dish. It tastes great with durian salad. You will love it." Garen didn't know what expression to use. As soon as you hear a soup with such a name, you will know that it will definitely not taste good. It is a soup full of meat and no vegetables at all. There is also durian salad, which makes your tongue feel greasy just listening to it. Your mother is studying nutrition recently and believes that using some special process, most of the nutrients in meat can be highly concentrated and put into the soup. This can not only supplement nutrition but also not stretch your belly. Come back, will definitely like it. Where's Jason? What is he doing here now? He went to Cannon State College, and he should have gone before you if you hadn't taken the exam early. By the way, after you left, Raphael gradually came less and less, but Sister Alicia often came to visit and asked about your situation. Do you want to consider choosing one of them? Followed by a lewd expression. I think Jason is definitely out of luck. It's still early, why are you in a hurry? Garen couldn't help but think of the strange-looking sisters again. They have no clear connection with the primary color group, and they have that strange aura about them, as if they are at the center of the world. Are they okay now? He came back to his senses and sent a text message to ask. It's okay, Alicia will go to high school soon. Together with little Vivian, her sister Ishiro is pursuing many people now. She directly threatened that the minimum condition for pursuing her is to defeat her head on. Didn't you defeat her back then? Let's go, don't be afraid, your mother and I are behind you. Garen didn't bother to pay attention to his nonsense. Have they behaved in any unusual way during these times? Abnormal? No, it's normal. I'll talk about it when I get back, Garen finally replied. All right. After cutting off the chat with his father Emma, Garen quickly called Raphael. After a short waiting tone, the call was connected directly. Galen, are you coming back? Raphael's voice was still so full and confident. How do you know? I'm on my way back. How are you lately? Very good, what about you? Good. Then there was a period of silence, and no one knew what to say. There's been a bit of chaos in the town recently, you shouldn't have come back at this time. After silence, Raphael continued. Would you like me to go out and walk around with you? Chaos? Isn't grandeur okay all the time? Garen heard something strange. He actually knew Raphael's identity as a witch. If she said chaos, then there was probably something wrong. Some foreign criminals have entered the town, and the situation has not been good recently. I'll leave when I come back to see my parents. I won't stay for a long time. It's okay, Garen smiled. How is your life at school? Raphael changed the subject. Fortunately, It's just like that. The two fell into silence again for a while. Then I'll hang up first. Garen took the initiative. The phone is disconnected. Garen suddenly felt that he and Raphael didn't have much in common to talk about. They used to swim together, play together, live nearby, and go to school together, but now they can't find any intersection. Putting down the phone, he suddenly felt a little tired and closed his eyes to take a rest. "Young man, you look very unhappy." An old man sitting in the front seat turned back to look at Garen. He seemed to notice Garen while picking up something he had dropped. Sitting in a car, a young man with outstanding appearance like Garen is undoubtedly very eye-catching. For example, in the seat on the left, two young girls sitting side by side were stealing glances at him from time to time. "Fortunately, I just don't see much sunshine." Garen smiled politely. Really, the old man wore a rounded straw hat to block the sun. Wearing a thin floral shirt and black shorts, he looked like a fashionable old man. "When I saw you last time, you were much better than you are now. I remember you could also play the violin, right?" the old man said with a smile. "Violin?" Galen frowned. "Do I know you?" "Didn't we meet last time?" the old man replied with a smile. His voice suddenly became trembling, distorted, and vague, like a rumbling sound. His face actually began to melt, dripping down like candle oil, dripping onto the ground of the car, melting the lower car panels to create holes of varying sizes. Garen was surprised to find that after the bottom of the car melted, what was exposed was not a high-speed moving highway, but a blur of black. He didn't know why he took it for granted that the old man's face melted, but was surprised by something else. His eyes were involuntarily focused on the black hole below, and with his head lowered, only the corner of his eye could see the old man's lower body in shorts. The strange thing is that when he wanted to concentrate on observing the details of the ground inside the bus, he couldn't concentrate at all, as if everything was blurry. No detail, no grain, no dust. Snapped. He seemed to hear something. From the corner of his eye, he saw the old man in front of him stand up, turn around, face him, stand still in front of him, and suddenly raise his legs and walk directly towards him. Garen suddenly felt an unprecedented sense of fear coming over him. He wanted to raise his head to look at the old man's face, but he couldn't move even with this simple movement and could only lower his head. The figure of the old man is getting closer and closer, and the yellow solution dripping from his upper body is getting closer and closer. What's going on? Garen's heart seemed to be covered with a layer of gauze. His thinking was very slow, like a baby acting on instinct. He simply lost the ability to think and could only watch the old man getting closer and closer. Bang! There was a violent shaking, and Garen suddenly opened his eyes. Call. He leaned back on his seat and looked at the empty seats in front of him in astonishment. There was no one sitting in front of him at all. There was only a young woman sitting in the row further ahead, dozing off with her head tilted. There were constant complaints from passengers in the car about the shaking. "Sorry, I didn't pay attention to a stone on the road and ran over it," the driver apologized loudly. Garen suddenly realized this time that he had actually fallen asleep just now, and it was just a dream. He touched his forehead, and it was all wet. Once again, I carefully looked at the back of the seat in front of me. The beautiful woman in the advertisement printed on it was posing with one hand raised and the other on her waist. She was only wearing a blue low-cut skirt. On the side is a line of small words: "Ancient Eastern technology will restore your innocence." The following is an introduction to various business functions. The main business is painless abortion and virginity restoration *. There is also a gray stain stuck to the flawless words. I don't know what it is, but it is stained. Someone wrote in black pen on the side, "I owe you work." An inexplicable sense of joy immediately diluted Galen's inexplicable emotion just now. He calmed down and touched the fabric on the back of the seat. It was as rough as a raincoat. He looked to the left and saw a middle-aged couple sleeping next to each other on the seat over there. They were not young girls at all. What was that just now? What would have happened if I hadn't been awakened by a bump in the car? When Garin thought of this, he suddenly felt an inexplicable panic in his heart, as if his soul was facing some huge threat. You must be aware in your dream that you are dreaming. Agee's words came to his mind again. How do you know that you are dreaming in a dream? Garin recalled everything just now, that unprecedented sense of crisis and panic. It really didn't look like a lie. If he was afraid that something that didn't look like a human would really touch him. If you hit him, what will happen to him will probably hurt his soul. It's just the instinctive warning of the soul seed, not false. In this contact, the guy who was suspected of being a dead apostle had already taken action. The dream just now was an attack. A very dangerous attack. Garin felt confident and took out a tissue to wipe the sweat from his forehead. If you want to realize that you are dreaming in a dream, one of the methods according to Agee is to use observation of details to tell the difference. Generally, the biggest difference between reality and dreams lies in the details. Dreams are disillusioning because they are based on human beings' own memory. Reshaping, this kind of reshaping cannot be done in detail. There will definitely be some blurred and unable to present the details. At this time, you should be able to find that the environment you are in is not a dream. Garin wiped his face with both hands. For the first time, he felt that he had no power to fight back and was attacked by other beings. He looked at his attribute column, and the number in the mental column actually dropped. It dropped from 2.4 to 2.3, a full drop of 0.1. Sure enough, the attack just now was real. Garin saw a dark mist-like sign behind his status bar. The moment his eyes moved upward, an inexplicable message flowed into his heart. Nightmare debilitation. The fear in the dream will continue to weaken the subject's physical fitness for 5 days, until all attributes are reduced by 0.1 on average. The curse effect is permanent and has no time limit, and the method to remove it is unknown. Alert, this curse stacks. Nightmare is weak. For the first time, Garin personally felt how powerful and difficult the opponent was. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 630. An attack method that does not belong to his known category and does not belong to his area of expertise is indeed a very troublesome thing for Garin. Although he is fearless, and the killing hands in his hands can also have a certain threatening effect, they are not specifically aimed at this after all. The ability to be pulled into a dream in just the blink of an eye is really troublesome. Garin sat up straight. Nothing happened along the way. Although Garin was always on alert, nothing unusual happened until he got home. A few hours later, the bus slowly arrived at the town of Glendo. It was surrounded by lush green forests, and some places were already turning yellow. It was autumn now, and the air was filled with the faint aroma of fruits. When he got off the bus, his brother Jason was already waiting for him at the station. He was standing among a group of people. He was tall and muscular, like a football player among a group of dwarfs. Hey! As soon as he saw Garin, he shouted loudly and waved vigorously, causing the people around him to pay attention and salute him. Mom is waiting for us over there. In the car, Jason rushed over in a few steps and took Galen's luggage. Your muscles have actually developed so much. Garin hammered his chest, which felt much thicker. 12 sets of comprehensive training every day, Jason laughed. The two of them walked along the driveway leading in and out of the station and walked out on the right side. They quickly distinguished their mother Teresa's white car from several cars parked on the roadside. Therese, who was sitting in the driver's seat wearing a white women's shirt, was waving to them. The two got into the car, Garin sitting in the front, and Jason being squeezed into the back seat. Go home, Therese said with a smile. As soon as she stepped on the accelerator, the car immediately started and rushed out, turning a corner and heading towards home. The town has remained the same with almost no changes. Most of the wooden houses have been given a new coat of paint, and they look bright and white. The car drove slowly, and some uncles and sisters in front of the houses on the roadside greeted Teresi from time to time, and Teresi responded happily. After passing the accommodation area, there are streets. There are many jewelry shops and handicraft shops on the streets in the town. There are also many more people passing by, many of them are unfamiliar faces, and there are not a few with cameras hanging on their chests. They are obviously tourists. Hey! Several young and beautiful girls riding bicycles passed by Teresi's car and slowed down. One of them was Raphael. Back, she tied up her long blonde hair, wore a white t-shirt and black trousers, and seemed to have a smile in her eyes. Yes, Garin stretched out his hand, and from the car window, the two of them gently patted each other's palms. "Auntie, let's go first," Raphael said with a smile towards Therese. "Have fun." Therese was not very satisfied with Raphael. This girl actually gave up the opportunity to go to college. This was undoubtedly not very understandable to their family. He preferred Ishiro to Raphael. This girl was well educated and more in line with the rhythm and concepts of their family. A group of girls rode in a convoy and passed the slow cars, and soon disappeared on the road ahead with laughter like silver bells. Garin looked at their backs and said nothing. He knew that Raphael came here to protect him and that it was not a coincidence. "Let's go straight home." Therese glanced at Garin, accelerated the car, and drove towards her home. "After returning home, I got together with my family for a while, chatted about some things at school, and had a so-called big meal, even though the taste was painful. My sister Vivian is always sending text messages on her mobile phone. Her dress is no longer pure as before. Now she has a cool and hot temperament. She is not as enthusiastic and open-minded about her brother Galen as before. Instead, she has a trace of inexplicable shyness, I don't know why. Ji-Ling went to school in the north. Didn't she call you when she left?" "No, I haven't contacted her for a long time," Garin responded to his mother's inquiry. "I heard she found a boyfriend, a very strong guy." The focus of Jason's attention was on the other person's muscles. He never forgot to show off his strong muscles, although not as thick as mine. He puffed up his arms. "You are also tired from the journey. You should wash up and rest early." Therese saw Garin's absent-mindedness. "Okay." Garin nodded. After chatting casually with his father Emma for a few more words, he put down the tableware and went directly back to his bedroom. It was still the same as before, and the furnishings in the bedroom were exactly the same as when he left. The quilt was replaced with a new one, a pure white silk quilt. Garin fell down on the bed. He didn't know why, but he felt sleepy and tired. This is very unusual. With his physique and energy, he would not necessarily feel sleepy even if he sat in the car for days and nights, not to mention several hours. But at this time, he really felt very tired, and he couldn't even open his eyelids, as if he had just fallen on the bed and slept hard. "I checked my physical condition and found nothing abnormal." He lay on his back on the bed with his eyes closed, and his breathing slowly became even for a while. The bedroom door was suddenly opened. Someone walked in. "What's wrong? Are you so tired? Brother, you look very unhappy." "It's Vivian." This little guy has blonde shawl hair, wearing a hot black t-shirt and white shorts, revealing a pair of long, fair, and round legs. The age of 16 is the most pure and beautiful time. She jumped to the left side of where Garin was lying and lay down on the bed. "Brother, is there something wrong between you and Raphael?" "Kid, don't worry so much." Garin didn't even bother to open his eyes, he closed his eyes and looked up as he replied. "You have a boyfriend?" "No. That kind of thing is so boring, it doesn't matter what happens." Vivian curled her hair with her fingers and said, "But my eldest brother found someone from another town." "From another town?" "Yes. A woman who looks very honest." Vivian described her unceremoniously. "Be polite." "Yes, yes. Forget it, you go to sleep, I'm going back to the room." The sound of Vivian getting up, Then the door of the room was closed, and the footsteps gradually moved away. Garen lay on the bed and didn't want to move. "That's right, brother," suddenly Vivian's voice sounded again. The door was opened and then closed again, and footsteps approached quickly. "What's wrong?" Garen felt a little headache. He just wanted some time to carefully consider his condition. "Do you think I look good today?" "Good-looking," Galen said casually. "Little Vivian will always be the most beautiful and cutest." "You say it looks good without even opening your eyes." Garen was helpless. He was about to open his eyes when he suddenly felt something was wrong. He couldn't open his eyes at all. His eyelids seemed to have no strength and his body was stiff and unable to move. He could only lie stiffly on the bed. His thinking suddenly seemed to become sluggish, as if he knew how to get rid of the state, but just couldn't remember how to do it. "Here we go again." He was shocked. This kind of attack on consciousness was impossible to guard against, and there was no pattern to follow. It only took him a moment to fall victim to it. "Brother, you look very bad," Vivian's voice came over. "Are you sick?" "Maybe, I don't know," Garen replied. "Forget it, I'm going to take a shower." Vivian seemed angry, and then there was the sound of footsteps leaving. The room fell silent for a moment. Garen was lying on the bed alone, his whole body felt like cramps, unable to move or open his eyes. In the silence, he suddenly heard a faint sound of footsteps approaching his bed gently. The man seemed to be walking towards him, getting closer, getting closer, getting closer. The footsteps stopped when they reached his bedside, and the other person seemed to be looking at him. "Call." There was a slight exhalation sound. Garen felt as if the man stretched out his hands and gently grabbed his face. Boom! Suddenly, a ball of flame-like power exploded in Garen's arms. This power burned like an invisible fire, and instantly spread to all parts of Garen's body. In an instant, Garen felt that hot flames were erupting from the surface of his body, and the flames directly burned the man's hands. Grumble! He seemed to hear a sharp scream, like the sound of a rat. Then he opened his eyes. With a breath, everything before disappeared instantly, as if it was just an illusion. Garen felt wet all over, as if he was sweating profusely. He sniffed and vaguely smelled a faint fragrance wafting from the left. Turning his head to the side, little Vivian was lying on the bed on the left. She fell asleep lying on her stomach, and she didn't know whether gods or demons came in at the same time. Lifting his upper body slightly, Garen felt the sweat in his hair and forehead flow down his temples and the bridge of his nose, making it itch. He didn't like this feeling. Compared with fighting face to face, this feeling of being attacked by sneak attacks everywhere was really worse. He felt the vitality stored in his arms, and 1/3 of it had been consumed. It was that explosion just now that might have seriously injured the other party. But Galien feels like it won't be that simple. After leaving the bedroom, the lights in the study were still on, and I didn't know who was still there. He walked to the bathroom and quickly took off a towel to wipe the sweat off his body. Suddenly, he saw a line of small black text in the depression of his right shoulder collarbone. All of a sudden, his movements of wiping himself froze. He recognized that line of writing. Galien has multiple characters. Garen carefully touched the line of letters on his right shoulder. It was as if someone had tattooed it on with something, and it couldn't be wiped off. "What defeats us is the unknown void." He translated the meaning of this line in a low voice. "What does it mean?" The ancient Yinduo civilization is closely related to the inheritance of warlocks. They are powerful and mysterious. They pursue the path of death in the underworld. They are extremely powerful for a while, but they disappear completely without a trace as if overnight. If he remembered correctly, this line of text was not on his body when he took a shower last night. In other words, this line of text only appeared today. Garen looked in the mirror and carefully observed the handwriting and raw materials of this line of writing. There was a hint of black and red in the black writing above, like dried and solidified black blood. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 631. For some reason, when he saw this handwriting, he felt vaguely familiar. It seemed that he had seen it somewhere in the community, but he couldn't remember where it was for a while. The black blood writing of Guyinduo only appeared today, and the killing hand erupted automatically. He was sure that the outbreak of the killing hand just now was not under his control. Originally, he thought it was the instinctive protective eruption of this secret weapon, but now it seems, I'm afraid it's not that simple. He lowered his head, turned on the faucet, poured water on his face, and suddenly felt much more awake. Is it Hesaz? He felt that the tone of this line was very much like it was being narrated by Guyinduo. What destroys the ancient sounds is the unknown void? If you look at it this way, it makes sense. I have practiced the hand of killing, and I should be strictly considered one of the inheritors of the ancient Yinduo civilization, and Hesaz may still have a trace of his soul left in this secret martial art. Garen recalled that after defeating Hesaz, the countless black energy dissipated and merged into the secret weapon. There is probably a remnant soul of Hesaz among them. If it is the written legacy of Heshez, it is very possible. The more Garen thought about it, the more likely it seemed. He suddenly remembered that when he found the secret weapon original of the killing hand, the handwriting on it was exactly the same as the handwriting just now. Hesaz, he muttered and read out the name of Hesaz in ancient Yinduo language. He was sure that this line of words should have been left by Hesaz. The outburst just now was probably caused by Hesaz helping him. A handful. He reached out and touched the words on his right shoulder. Suddenly, without any warning, the line of text became slightly blurred and quickly transformed into a completely new text. You guessed it right, I am Hesaz. Garen was shocked. Hesaz, one of the 42 demon kings of Guyinduo, held the supreme position in that era. He was one of the 42 people at the pinnacle of the entire civilization. His powerful power was even revered as inhuman and was praised. One of the 42 demon kings. Are you still alive? Garen asked in a low voice in ancient Chinese, suppressing the doubts and surprise in his heart. This is just a remaining memory of mine. The real me has long since decayed and died thousands of years ago. The black blood text is blurred and transformed again. I need your strength to support me to have a normal conversation with you, otherwise I won't be able to last alone. No problem. Garen did not hesitate. This was his first contact with the main figures of the ancient Yinduo civilization. He had too many doubts and mysteries in his mind that needed to be revealed. Without hesitation, he mobilized a trace of vitality from his arms, and quickly gathered along the arms and shoulders at the right shoulder. Okay, that's enough. Hesaz's handwriting reappeared. If you have any questions, just ask them directly. What do you mean by what you just said? Garen asked in ancient Yinduo language. The destruction of Guyinduo came from the unknown void? What does this mean? Aren't you already being targeted? What? You mean the vampire death apostles? Garen asked in return. Dead apostle, what is that? No, those who are eyeing you are void creatures, not dead apostles, Hesaz replied quickly, and the handwriting changed again. The void creatures fought against the warlocks, competing for the hegemony of several worlds. In the end, they both died together. Both sides suffered unprecedented heavy losses. They are mortal enemies of us. Void creature, Garen heard this term for the first time. Is that a creature from the underworld? No, the underworld is the underworld. It is the theoretical world that we pursue all our lives. Maybe there is no underworld at all in the world. Our inherited culture believes that there is an eternal mother river in the universe with never-ending energy. The source of death is the place we call the underworld. It is the end of death and the origin of the purest life. We yearn for it, but only those who can't imagine it will want to enter the underworld while they are alive. This was the first time Garen had heard of this explanation. He originally thought that this underworld was the underworld in mythology. So what do void creatures refer to? What is the war you mentioned earlier? Can you elaborate on it? These were two unprecedentedly powerful wars he's opposed. Warlocks control everything and regard any non-kind creature as a slave, regardless of whether they have intelligent civilization or not. They are supreme, their power is boundless, their lives are long and vast in the exploration of the essence of life. They went further and further, and finally broke through the barriers between the worlds, descending and invading new worlds one after another. That period of history is indeed one of our greatest glories. But what? When the warlocks opened up a new world, they encountered another group of pioneers like them, which were void creatures. Hessas described in a lonely tone. The void creatures are powerful and greedy. They have endless possessiveness. As soon as the two sides come into contact, they will attack each other in unison. This battle lasts for tens of thousands of years until both sides suffered heavy losses, including the loss of their inheritance. This is the first war. Then again, thousands of years later, we Gaian-Duo slowly regain some of the glory of the warlocks. This time, because we have awe and belief in the Mother River and the underworld, we are careful and cautious every step of the way. But this time, it was the void creature that came to the door. Did you win or lose? Garen asked. In order to eliminate the world of void creatures, we set off the wrath of the Mother River. No one expected that the wrath of the Mother River was too terrifying. The void creatures were completely destroyed, and we were also swallowed up by huge power. The entire civilization overnight becomes history. Integrate into the Mother River and become a part of it. Hessas seemed a little tired. The creatures of the void regard us as enemies, and they have sworn to hunt us down from generation to generation and into eternity. In the name of the Mother River, they made an eternal oath that all creatures that inherit the warlock civilization will become their torch in the darkness. They will follow you in the dream and continue to hunt and attack you until you die. What kind of existence are they? Garen frowned. In this world, the strong death apostles of the vampire clan attack in the same way as they should. Vampire dead apostle, I haven't seen it. If you find an example, maybe I can give you some advice, but I don't think it's a void creature, Hessas replied. Why? Garen asked. Because they are greedy and powerful, but they never exist in the ordinary world. They are creatures that exist in the gap between illusion and reality. The weak ones are at most about the same as ordinary secret warriors, and the powerful ones can even destroy the entire world. Can you describe what form of life the so-called dead apostles of the vampire clan are? Garen told the information he knew about the vampire dead apostles in ancient Yinduo language. Hessas pondered for a while. Somewhat similar, but not the same type. The dead apostles' abilities are fundamentally different. They are two different systems. What should I say? They should all be attacking creatures in dreams, right? Garen frowned. No, it's different, Hessas explained. The dead apostles manipulate the dreams created by the creatures themselves, get into them, and control and influence the other party's thinking. Void creatures create illusions, not just dreams. They can forcefully drag creatures into the illusions they create, which may even be the product of a mixture of illusion and reality. The main ability of the void creature is to make you unable to tell whether it is real or fake, whether it is living in an illusion or reality. The two are different systems. With this explanation, Garen understood. Then how can I judge whether the conversation I am having with you is really in reality or in an illusion? He suddenly asked. The hallucinations of void creatures have one biggest characteristic, and that is the fear of the breath of life. You can try to flow the vitality in your arms throughout your body, so that you can resist their attacks to a certain extent. Hessas continued without pausing. Their methods are indeed somewhat similar to those of the dead apostles in this world, but they are not the same. But the effects are somewhat similar. I suspect they discovered you when you entered the Mother River, and then they followed you. Why do you say that? Because they haven't fully entered this world yet, they just sensed your breath and are still slowly eroding and positioning this world. That's why the power appears so weak. This is still weak. Garen was speechless. If what you said is true, then I brought this thing into this world, right? Indeed, they are now using you as a coordinate, and they are constantly locating the world amidst the invasion of dreams and hallucinations. This connection is implicated through the eternal oath. You can also sense their location in reverse. Then you should have targeted measures against void creatures, right? There is also a complete inheritance about warlocks. You want? Certainly. Then you need to agree to a condition, or a promise, an eternal oath to the Mother River. Any eternal oath must be fulfilled wholeheartedly, otherwise you will be cursed by the Mother River forever. Please think about it before answering me. The Hessian text suddenly disappeared and faded. Eternal oath. After wiping the water from his face, Garen walked out of the bathroom. The vitality in his arm slowly released and flowed throughout his body. He suddenly felt as if he was much more awake, and the sensory world around him seemed to suddenly become much clearer. The information he got tonight was a bit big, and he needed some time to digest it. The remnant soul or memory of Hessas had unexpectedly revived. The existence of the void creature was actually not a dead apostle, but an enemy he had brought into this world. All of this requires him to confirm and think about it himself. Although the possibility of falsehood is very small, after all, even if the dead apostle can control dreams, he cannot know these things, and it is impossible for them to learn Gaian-Du instantly. Before this, Garen had never been in front of outsiders. Use this written language. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 632. When he returned to his bedroom, Hessas never came out again. Galen sat alone on the bed, observing his attribute column from time to time. Unknowingly, his spirit, that is, intelligence attribute dropped again, from the original 2.4 to 2.2, a direct loss of 0.2 points. No, didn't you say it would only drop by 0.1? Garen suddenly remembered the reminder he had seen earlier. Suddenly, he noticed another inexplicable change on the previous nightmare weakness icon. Nightmare weakness 2, a weakness that has been superimposed once, will permanently weaken the subject's average attributes by 0.2 within 5 days. The effects are irreversible. He quickly stood up, turned on the light, and walked to the full-length mirror. Trouble. Garen frowned slightly. He thought it was temporary before, but now it seems that it is permanent. His attributes have been trained little by little since he was a child. Even if it is 0.1, it requires a little bit of potential points. If two 0.1s are lost at once, it is equivalent to the loss of 2 potential points. Is there a way to eliminate him? Hessas? He asked in a low voice in ancient Yinduo language in front of the mirror. You decide to swear, and I will tell you how to lift it. The writing of Hessas appeared on the skin of his right shoulder. By the way, I would like to remind you that when the nightmare debility is superimposed for the 3rd time, your body will permanently weaken significantly again. However, it is commendable that you were alert very quickly and immediately noticed something was wrong as soon as it happened. I thought it would take another 2 days for you to feel it. He paused. You have to be careful. This change is irreversible. Even if it's too late, I won't be able to restore your lost physical fitness, so make your decision early. What oath do you want me to swear? Garen asked in a low voice. A very simple oath, but also a very difficult oath. Hessas had no intention of selling out. Pursue the void creatures forever until their existence is completely wiped out, no matter in any world. Swear in the name of the Mother River. His intense hatred for void creatures is faintly revealed between the lines. Is there a time limit? Unexpectedly, Garen did not pay attention to the content of this oath. Of course not, but the Mother River oath must be fulfilled with all your heart. This hatred from the nation will be transferred to you. You will involuntarily inherit this hatred and hunt down and pursue the existence of void creatures. Hessas seemed very candid. I don't want you to regret it later. Do I still have a choice? Garen asked. Hessas was silent for a moment. Indeed not. The void creatures have already found Garen and have taken action against him. In this case, Garen has no need to hesitate. I promise you, in the name of the Mother River, I will hunt down void creatures forever and eliminate them completely. Garen replied in a low voice. In the name of Gyanduo, the spirit of the warlock will inspire you in the Mother River. They are both supervisors and facilitators. They watch you, and if necessary, you can summon their main body in the Mother River to help you fight. Hesaz replied in a deep voice. Are they still alive? No, it is just a trace of their past existence, a mark of the past recorded by the Mother River, but their strong yearning will make their mark respond to your call. Countless heroes, former gods, and us 40, the two strongest demon kings, all imprints of existence who swear to destroy the creatures of the void, will answer your call. Hesaz replied solemnly. It seems to have some strange sense of historical mission. Garen also suddenly felt an extremely strong heaviness. Then how to swear, no matter what, he needed to solve the problem of nightmare weakness as soon as possible. Swear by your soul seed and make him shake. The writing of Hesaz reappeared. Garen was silent for a moment. The voice sounded slowly. I swear by the soul seeds. As soon as he finished speaking, the soul seeds in his mind vibrated instantly, as if these sentences had some special meaning. What was very strange was that he said the sentence in ancient Yinduo language. At this time, the tone of the voice seemed to be singing some kind of song, which was extremely weird. For eternity and eternity, I will hunt down the void creatures until they are exterminated. For eternity, hunt down the creatures of the void until they are exterminated, Garen read out following Hesaz's words. In an instant, he seemed to feel that something inexplicable separated from his eyebrows, flew into the air in front of him, and disappeared. He didn't know what it was, but that inexplicable feeling of separation made him feel a little uncomfortable. That is the true spirit. A deep male voice sounded in his ears. Garen narrowed his eyes and hesitated. Are you Hesaz? He asked in a low voice. Of course, you swore by your soul seed, and also called out the name of the Mother River. Ancient Yinduo language has the effect of causing resonance and vibration in the universe. It is one of the mysterious words, so the oath was successful. A little bit of your true spirit is separated, returned to the eternal Mother River, and becomes a little imprint in it. Hesaz whispered, in this way, my mark can also directly communicate with your mark in the Mother River, thereby achieving the purpose of direct dialogue. He paused. In this way, if you return to Mother River in the future, those who come after you will also be able to summon your main combat power through the summoning mark. Does this affect me? Garen frowned. It doesn't matter, it just marks you as a true part of our heritage. We Gyanduo are somewhat different from the ancient warlocks. We believe in the eternal Mother River and the mysterious and eternal underworld. So you are now considered a true inheritor. Hesaz's deep voice was hoarse and contained a certain charm. What's the point of this? Garen asked, confused. Of course it makes sense. Hesaz's voice suddenly fell silent. Hiss. Suddenly, Garen found that strands of black smoke and black air began to seep out from all over his body, and strands of black air continued to gather and condense behind him. Soon the black smoke formed a vague black human shape. This humanoid figure was more than 2 meters tall, even taller than him. Black smoke was billowing all over his body, with only 2 scarlet eyes shining on his head. In the name of the Mother River, I give you a new destiny, Void Stalker. The moment Hesaz whispered these words in a low and charming voice, Garen only felt his whole body sinking suddenly. It was as if there was something special on his body, like he was wearing an inexplicable layer of armor, and it was like nothing happened. His skin felt hot, as if it had been rubbed by something rough, and his whole body felt hot. Within 5 days, find and kill the void creature that cursed you, and your weakness will be eliminated. This is also a trial for you, Hesaz whispered. What's the use of this? The identity of this void stalker. Garen moved his body, but felt no change. Without this identity, You can't relieve the weakness even if you kill that void creature. This is a disease of the soul, a plague of the soul. After Hesaz finished speaking, his figure immediately dissipated and turned into a ball of black energy that kept rolling and floating. You have awakened me and practiced my secret martial arts to a certain extent. You can summon my mother river mark more easily, of course, if you want to. His voice came from the black smoke ball. Let's talk about it later. Garen did not respond directly. So you will always act with me in the future? If you are willing to. The black smoke ball immediately shrank quickly and turned into a black ring, with 2 red lines inlaid with scarlet gemstones on it. The ring floated gently in front of Garen, and he grabbed it and put it on the middle finger of his left hand. I can help you guard against attacks by void creatures to a certain extent. In addition, you can also save more consumption when summoning the mark of my body. What does it cost to summon? Anything is okay. The mother river is all-encompassing. As long as it is the energy of the nature of life, anything is okay, but be careful not to overconsume, which is likely to consume your own lifespan, not of your body, but of your soul, Hesaz reminded. Afterwards, I will teach you the real key to dealing with void creatures. Don't worry, he will come to you soon, and I will help you then. The voice fell silent. Garen stood alone in front of the full-length mirror, carefully stroking the black ring on his finger. He suspected that Hesaz was hiding something. You must know that at the beginning, Hesaz wanted to seize the body and was defeated by him. Now he suddenly appeared to help him without asking for anything in return. This made him feel deeply of vigilance. But the attack by the void creatures was indeed imminent, so he had to rely on his power. Don't worry, take your time and wait and see. Any intention will eventually be exposed. Garen's heart became more and more eager to gain more potential points. If he has enough potential points, he can quickly increase his strength and reach an extremely powerful level. Maybe we can find the key to dealing with void creatures. He looked at his status bar. At the end of the attribute column, there was something like the title of Void Stalker. Void Stalker, the inheritor of the ancient Yindu civilization, and the Void race have been sworn enemies for generations. He has the innate ability to heal and strengthen himself by seizing the core of void creatures. That is the gifted power eternally given by the mysterious power of Gaian Duo. Alicia, bring me my towel. Ishiro shouted from the bathroom. Right away Arisa put down the fashion magazine in her hand, got up from the bed and ran to the other bathroom in the living room. Quickly taking off her sister's white towel, and walking out of the bathroom, she suddenly glanced at the door unconsciously, where there was a faint fishy smell. What does it smell like? She murmured softly. Slowly slow down and walk to the gate. Suddenly, she saw a little faint red liquid flowing in from the crack of the door. This is. She knelt down and lightly dipped her fingers into the liquid and smelled it. It's blood, she exclaimed in a low voice. Elder sister. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 633. Ishiro in the bathroom was suddenly startled. She heard her sister's somewhat harsh voice. He didn't even have time to dry his hair, so he rushed out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel. With bare feet, she ran towards the living room where her sister was. Sure enough, he saw Alicia squatting at the gate, looking at him nervously. Sister, there is blood, Arisa lowered her voice. She and her sister had experienced a life of being hunted for several years together. Naturally, she was no more mature than other people of the same age. At this time, she seemed much more mature. It flowed in from outside the door, Alicia added. Ishiro nodded, walked over and squatted down, also touched the blood with his hand and smelled it. Open the door. She adjusted her muscles to their best condition and whispered to Elisa. The latter nodded and opened the door carefully. After a very slight click sound, a red and bloody human figure suddenly lay down outside the door. Ishiro, who had already taken a stance, vigilantly kicked the humanoid figure lying on the ground. This person seems a bit familiar. The man covered in blood lay motionless on the ground, seemingly unconscious. "Sister, it seems that Mr. Tramp," Alicia said cautiously. "What's that called, Pu?" Ishiro suddenly remembered the mysterious homeless man he had met some time ago. He must be in some kind of trouble. He lost too much blood. "We have to save him," Alicia whispered. Her sympathy started to show up again, and she seemed to be more concerned about the acquaintance she had met once. "Alyssa, we can't cause trouble," Ishiro said sternly. "I can't deal with this person who left me last time. If there is someone else who can hurt him like this, then he must be someone we can't deal with. Come on. This is beyond my capabilities, we have to get him out." "But sister, he's too seriously injured." Elisa also knew that the situation was a bit serious this time, but she couldn't bear to see this man lying here seriously injured and unconscious. "He will die if this continues," she whispered with a little pleading. "After we revive him, let him leave, okay? This situation is beyond what I can handle," Ishiro said seriously. "But sister, he's injured too badly. He will die." Arisa squatted beside the man and begged in a low voice. Looking at his sister's eyes, Ishiro finally softened and nodded. "Okay, drag him in quickly and I'll deal with the bloodstains right away." "Yes. Sister is the best." Elisa also knew that the situation was serious, and quickly dragged the man slowly towards the living room. Ishiro quickly went to get a mop and wiped away the bloodstains, then sprayed some air freshener expertly, carefully checked the surroundings, and then closed the door. "I was originally going to see Brother Gallon from Thomas's house tonight." Ishiro frowned as he watched his sister wiping the blood from the man's face. "We have to send him to the hospital." Elisa also frowned, but she looked at the wounds of various sizes on the man's body. She used to treat her sister's wounds. Very skilled in dealing with these injuries. After carefully examining the wound, Alicia made a very experienced judgment. "It's like a wound scratched by the claws of a wild animal. It's deep, but it heals very well." She quickly found alcohol gauze and bandages. "We can only deal with it briefly and then send him to the hospital immediately." "No." The man woke up suddenly, opened his eyes wide, and grabbed Alicia's wrist. "Can't go to the hospital." His wiped face was handsome and pale, without a trace of blood, even a little blue, and some kind of black. There was a faint red glow in his eyes, and he stared greedily and longingly at Alicia's white wrist. To be precise, he stared at the slightly pulsating blood vessels on her wrist. But some kind of reason restrained him and prevented him from taking action. Trying to look away, he let go of Alicia's hand and looked at the two sisters apologetically. They seemed a little frightened. "I'm sorry for scaring you. I'm very weak now, very weak. I'm sorry, I'll leave right away and won't cause any trouble to you." He struggled to turn over and stand up, but it was useless. Just as he stood up, there was a crisp sound and his whole body tilted. "Ah," Alicia whispered, covering her mouth, and exclaimed. The man's left kneecap actually broke with a snap and bent back at an unnatural angle. "It's okay, it'll be fine soon." The man didn't seem to care about his fracture. He sat down on the ground. "It'll be fine soon. It'll be fine." "Your legs." Alicia didn't know what to say. She opened her eyes wide and looked at the man as if nothing had happened, and her heart suddenly became confused. Ishiro also had a hint of admiration in his eyes. He was able to deal with such an injury as if nothing had happened. Regardless of his experience and status, this person was a tough guy worthy of admiration. "I have to leave here, otherwise you will be implicated," the man smiled bitterly. Ishiro looked at his eyes quietly, and she could see the sincerity in the other person's words. The other party really didn't want to implicate them. "Don't worry, is someone chasing you?" she asked. The man nodded. "Yes, they are very powerful. I am no opponent. The police are useless. Their power can suppress all public forces." There was a hint of helplessness on his face. Suddenly his expression changed, as if he had sensed something. Here they come. They're coming. Be careful. He struggled to his feet. Hurry up and hide, I'll deal with them. They are very. He yelled and stood up. Before he finished speaking, he was dumbfounded to see Ishiro take out a rifle from a vase nearby and shoot at the left wall without looking. Bang. Bang 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 bang. Then one after another, Ishiro kept pulling the trigger with a calm expression. Countless bullets hit the sky, but they did not hit the wall. Instead, they hit a dark young man. He passed that place at an unknown time and was hit by the rifle. This man originally pounced on Alicia's neck on the side, but was hit one after another with rifles. His entire chest was beaten to pieces, and blood spattered everywhere. After finishing the bullets, Ishiro threw away the gun, pulled out the handle of the door next to him, and actually pulled out an extremely sharp black dagger from it, and pounced to the right with an expressionless expression. Laugh. The black dagger drew a black line and instantly cut into the forehead of a woman behind her. The latter suddenly appeared behind her. Before she could make any move, her eyes froze and her whole body froze in place. Wow! The two pursuers' bodies instantly collapsed and turned into two piles of black ashes. They are very powerful. The man finished the rest of his words. He looked at the two piles of black ash on the ground, and then at the expressionless faces of Ishiro and Alicia. He suddenly felt that human beings were so scary. Two vampires were killed by a seemingly weak girl in an instant. This simply destroyed his worldview, life, and ideology. Sorry, I scared you. Ishiro put away the dagger lightly, looked at the two pools of black ashes on the ground strangely, frowned, and whispered. Can you explain why their bodies turned black and ash after death? Sister has the ability to predict upcoming dangers. Although these two people are fast, they have no skills at all. They are much weaker than the ones my sister has dealt with before. Arisa also looked unmoved. Look. You must know that they were able to slowly survive with the skills of ordinary people in the past and continue to grow to the point where they are now. Naturally, it cannot be simple. Not only his sister, but he himself also has similar abilities. Rather than this, we are more interested in why they turned into two piles of black ashes when they died. Ishiro repeated the previous question. The man smiled bitterly. It seems that I have met a great person. Let me introduce myself again. My real name is Pretu Red Moon. A member of the ancient Red Moon blood clan. Vampire, Ishiro raised his eyebrows. Your name wasn't like this last time, was it? Alicia pointed out immediately. Although it's also common or something. Sorry. Last time it was a false name. I was afraid of injuring you, so I didn't give my real name. Pretu's face became paler. In just such a short period of time, the injuries on his body had healed to a great extent. He walked over and looked at the ashes of the two unlucky vampires, not knowing what to say for a moment. It seems I don't want to get you in trouble anymore. They've already set their sights on you. Are they difficult to deal with? Ishiro said in a calm voice. The vampires are the legendary vampires. I've heard of them before and thought they were legends, but I didn't expect that they actually exist. But aren't all vampires supposed to be handsome? Arisa was puzzled. Aren't you worried? Preto looked at the two sisters who didn't feel any pressure, dumbfounded. Worried? This kind of thing is not difficult to solve. Why should you worry? Ishiro explained casually and began to quickly change bullets for the rifle. Please explain carefully what is going on. Over the years, she has gone from being hunted to killing others. What is a fatal threat to others is something that the sisters have become accustomed to. But being inexplicably involved in this dispute made her unhappy. This matter needs to be explained slowly. Preto smiled bitterly. The Blood Clan has been divided into two parts, the Ming Party and the Secret Party, since ancient times. And I am a Blood Clan subordinate to Lord Red Moon, one of the leaders of the Ming Party. Then it's the vampires of the Secret Party who are chasing you, Ishiro is used to seeing all kinds of extremely powerful chasing techniques, some of which look just like magic and are extremely miraculous. On the contrary, he didn't react much to the vampires, he just regarded them as a stronger new human being. Yes, those two were just the lowest level vampires. Proto whispered, "It's no longer safe here. I'm afraid we need to move the location."